Alderneys Key FM.
President William Tate on the line. Good morning, William.
And good morning, Dougal.
How are you, firstly?
As always, Dougal, absolutely fantastic. I am well rested.
Good.
And ready for whatever the world might throw at us.
Okay. So, would you like to make a start?
Well, why not? This morning I'm going to put a very positive slant because quite often I have to say things which don't come easy, but have to be said. But today I think I can report two extremely good pieces of news. I've been on to Dr. Sally this morning, and I can confirm that we have no outstanding tests. So that confirms that the virus has not been identified, tested, and proved positive in Alderney. So I think that is a massive positive. And secondly, I've been on to Sergeant Taylor this morning. I asked him whether there were any problems over the weekend, and he came back and said no. So the second massive positive is that despite the temptations, despite the fantastic weather, despite the impact that these restrictions are having on our normal life, we have all managed to play by the rules, use common sense, and in so doing, we have demonstrated that as a community, we have listened to the advice, we've ironed out some of the problems, and as a consequence of that, hopefully, everybody was able to enjoy the best possible Easter under these challenging circumstances. So now, back to the narrative. There have now been 219 positive tests for COVID-19 in the bailiwick of Guernsey. 53 of those cases have now recovered, but sadly there have been 6 deaths of people who tested positive for the disease and another 3 deaths where it is presumed that COVID-19 was present. Now, those are deaths which take place in the community where the symptoms of COVID-19 are present, but there was never a test. So it is assumed that those people unfortunately lost their lives as a result of that, of the virus. So those are added to the number of deaths that we know have taken place. So it's early days, but there is a sense that the spread of the virus may be slowing. The number of deaths has sadly increased by 1 since I last spoke to you on Thursday, but the number of positive cases has averaged an increase of 7 over the last 4 days, whereas it was averaging 9 a day last week. Only time will tell whether the virus is still being contained, but I know that we are all incredibly grateful that the public health team in Guernsey continued to work throughout the Easter period to trace the contacts of those who have tested positive. So it is still early days, but nevertheless, it appears that the policy that has been adopted in Guernsey is now starting to produce the results that everyone hoped it would. So again, another positive. So this is day 37 since the first positive case was detected in the bailiwick, and day 18 since the lockdown measures began. It is simply too early to say when those restrictions will come to an end, although I think we are all grateful for some sensible changes made last week to allow for home deliveries of non-essential goods. We must nevertheless recognise that there is still a long way to go, and there will continue to be uncertainty over the timescales. And these were questions which were pressed to the Foreign Secretary yesterday at the Downing Street briefing. But the UK are in a similar position where until such time as they feel that there is an element of control of the spread of the virus, it is not possible to consider relaxing those restrictions, because what we must not allow to happen is for those restrictions to be withdrawn or weakened and give the virus the opportunity then to take hold again. So it's a very sensitive balance, but again, we are being led by the science, and the same principles will apply to all jurisdictions, that as and when it is safe to do so, then the restrictions will start to be removed. But it would be a tragedy if all the sacrifices, all the lives that have been lost, and all the efforts that we have all made to play our part in fighting this virus, if that were to be compromised by governments going off too early. So caution is the right approach. And yes, it is hurting, but nevertheless, we all must do our bit to support those people who are putting their lives at risk to protect us. So it is something which is under constant review. It is something which is being discussed in the Civil Contingencies Authority, on which we have representation. So we must all just strengthen our resolve to carry on until such time that it is safe for other measures to be put in place. So throughout this, we can be sure that those who are on the front line will continue to do their very best to protect us all, and particularly the most vulnerable in our community. I know this has become something of a tradition over the last 3 weeks for people in the UK to stand outside their front doors on Thursday evening and clap for those who are caring for them, the nurses, the doctors in the National Health Service. And I'm heartened that the people here have also taken up the campaign, because what it demonstrates is a solidarity, and it recognises that nurses, doctors, care workers, everybody working on the front line of the health services will have families, will have friends, and they are putting their lives on the line. So the cost to them could be catastrophic. And so what we can do is to recognise that those sacrifices that are being made on our behalf. And so we can also join in that very positive way of saying thank you to all those people, wherever they are and whatever they do, who put themselves at risk for the greater good of the communities in which they live. And this virus has disempowered many of us, leaving us unable to do the things that we would normally do or go to the places we would normally go. But we can still make a bit of defiant noise at 8 p.m. on a Thursday evening. We can signal our support for the NHS staff caring for friends and family over in the UK. We can signal our appreciation for all of the people keeping us safe in the bailiwick and here on the island, from the public health team to the GPs, doctors and nurses, ambulance crew, police, border control, airport and harbour staff, from the Connaught care home staff to the home care workers and Meals on Wheels volunteers, from the essential shops keeping our food and essential goods flowing to the volunteers giving their time willingly and selflessly, from the teachers keeping the school running so that critical workers can do their jobs, to the state's works and civil servants keeping essential services running, and also to ourselves. Because I think that the community is entitled to say that we are also doing our bit. It may not be to the same extent, the risks that we face may not be as great, But what we are saying to all of those services is we are with you, we are behind you, and we will do everything that you require us to do in order that you can keep us safe. So let's make a bit of Alderney noise for all of those people on Thursday at 8 p.m. Let us face down the virus and let us show that we are strong and we will do whatever it takes for as long as it takes to ensure the sustainability and the future of our island home. So that's that part of it. Now time for the local updates, if you like. Now, I've got I had an email from the Chamber of Commerce yesterday, and this is about work which is being done by the civil service to look at what the effects of this lockdown will be upon our economy, and when they have the answers to those questions, they can then look at what the possible ways forward for us will be. But of course, on any journey, in order to get to anywhere, you have to know the point at which you set off. So what the civil service are doing via the Chamber of Commerce is to put out a simple questionnaire to the businesses on the island. And the view of the President, Andrew Eggleston, is that this is probably one of their most important surveys to island businesses. And it will be asked to identify the economic impact of the current COVID-19 crisis and then help guide states' policy in the short and medium term. So the results of the survey will plan our way ahead. It's a simple document, I'm told, but that will provide the sort of core information that is required for the civil service to assess the level of damage which will be caused inevitably to our economy, look at what the financial implications of that are, and then start to look at how we deal with that and how we put in place recovery steps so that we can get the economy back moving forward. But this is a very significant piece of work, and it's being done by Andrew Mutter and his team early so that as and when we get the opportunity, we can kickstart the economy, but we will know the areas that we need to highlight and we will know what the challenges are. So it's simply now a request from Andrew Eggleston, the President of the Chamber of Commerce, to all the members to complete this form as quickly as possible, please. It will be going out today. It will be returned. The information will be collated. So again, it's all part and parcel of the strategy, which is to be prepared so that as and when the challenge faces us, we know the extent of it, we know what to do to deal with it, and we know what to do to move beyond it. So that, again, it's a contribution that we can make, and it's for the benefit of all of us and would be invaluable information. So that's important, and that's a positive thing because we're really moving forward now and looking at what the horizon might look like. But the horizon is, or as always, currently changing. So we just need to manage it as best we can. Now, I know Dougal and Mags have been talking a lot this morning about an initiative which has been set up by St. Barb of Longy, of the Buttes, and this is an appeal to children. Now, those, I'm sure we all know Barbara well, but what she is really the link to our most vulnerable members, because she has for many years been responsible for Age Concern, so she knows pretty much everybody who is vulnerable on the island. And what she's noticed is that this is having an impact, perhaps disproportionately, upon our most vulnerable. So she sat down and came up with an idea so that what she can do is to bring some light and some joy into the lives of our most senior residents by engaging our most junior residents. So this is simply an appeal to children who can just write a letter or draw a picture, and just so that somebody has something to open, something to read, know a little bit more about our younger people on the island, and that inevitably can set up a relationship which can be mutually supportive and from which both parties can really take some positive energy. So what Barbara is asking, and it's a big ask, she wants 100 or so children to take part. So the contact details are either post it to Barbara, who at 1 Butte Flats, Butte Road, Alderney, or you can put it under the door at the charity shop, or you can scan it to Barb, BARBB, at cwgsy.net. That's Barb, BARBB, at cwgsy.net, and she will post them all. So she knows who needs a lift, and again, it's a fantastic initiative. It's somebody in the community going that extra mile to make people's lives just that bit more comfortable. So the next one is now stamps have been a bit of an issue because, of course, people are not encouraged to go to the post office other than for essential things. But a system has been worked out whereby if you ring the post office on 822644, 822644, they will send you a book of stamps, and you will pay for the book of stamps and one stamp to send it. So anybody wishing to be in touch with their family and friends by the old-fashioned methods, which actually is a very good thing to do. It's a great opportunity for us to go back and look at some of those old skills that most of us grew up with, but have sort of been lost with the advance of technology. But it's always a good opportunity to reflect and commit thoughts to paper in a very personal way. So that, again, problem identified and problem solved. Finally, I think that as a result of the appeal I made last Thursday for people to support the work of the radio station, I'm delighted to say that within a matter of minutes of coming off the air, I received a phone call, the result of which I think, Dougal, will help you sleep a lot better at night. So it's a massive thank you. The person responsible knows, and she or he has committed to support the radio in a very, very positive way. And I think that's a fantastic thing because, you know, I can't stress enough the importance of the radio in all of this. Because when I read on Facebook, when I get letters, when I get emails, when I get telephone calls, everybody makes the point that it's not just the message that's important. It's the way in which the message is delivered. And so by having Dougal there on hand 24 hours a day, I know that I can get any information out there as quickly as I can. And I think that's the one thing for me that I can take from this whole thing is the importance of communication, the importance of openness, of transparency and sharing good and bad news. So we don't have to wait for days. You hear it within a matter of hours. So I think, Dougal, if nothing else, I think I have been able to make your life a little bit easier, certainly in the short term. But that's not to say that you still don't need all the funds that you can get, because, of course, advertisers are also struggling because their businesses are closed. So all of these things have an impact in different ways. So we can all support Dougal and his team of volunteers, and I think that I'm certainly really humbled and delighted by the act of generosity that was forthcoming. So there we are, Doug. I finished on a big up for you. Richly deserved.
Thank you, William. And you've started on a real high and you've ended on a real high as well. And when you did call me last week, it was incredible, because after you spoke to me, that person did in fact give me a call and wanted to know where I was, and I said that I was down the radio, and they said, right, I'm on my way. And that person did actually come down and made a donation, which I have to say was humbling. In fact, there have been quite a few donations, and some people that have maybe found it hard themselves, they still wanted to give something. And it is quite emotional that people do care that much. And I thank you, and I thank you, William, for putting our case. I mean, there are lots of people struggling at the moment. I've read out as well about our printed media, and they are struggling as well, because they've got no way really of getting out their magazines and everything the way that they could do. So and they made a point actually of quoting you and said that we are all in this together, and I think that is a really important quote. We are all in it together, and we'll all get out of it together. But as I say, I thank you so much, and also to the generosity of the people of Alderney. And I do feel a bit like I'm on a soapbox here, but it is important that we realise that we are all sticking together as a community, and how wonderful it is. So, William, thank you, and also to the people of Alderney. It means so much.
And also, it was good to, when I rang you on Thursday, it was good to know that you are as emotional as I am. We had quite a little moment, didn't we, Dougal?
We did, and I was hoping you wasn't going to say that.
No,
but
I think, as my mother said to me as a child, never ever be afraid to express your emotions.
No, I'm not, but I didn't want to highlight the fact that I was emotional. And once again, it's a good time to mention how good everybody is as a team, because the team that I've got down here are absolutely fantastic, and they could almost walk over hot coals for me, and I'm really humbled by that. I did say almost, because Mags has given me that look and say, well, I don't think I will.
Yeah, but you could do without her.
No, we couldn't. We couldn't do without any of them, and they are all wonderful.
From my experience of being on off the radio for the last 2 or 3 years, it's a great environment to be in. It really is.
Yes.
And, in the end, hard though this is, we can take the positives and we can celebrate them, and we can celebrate each other. And, the world will be different, but it could also, in so many ways, be better.
We both agree with that wholeheartedly. And funny enough, I had a phone call from somebody on the mainland yesterday and said, do you know something? That little rock that you live on is probably the best place in the world at the moment. And actually, we already knew that, didn't we?
Yes, we did. And it will continue to be so. Whatever gets thrown at us, it'll still be
the best place in the world. Yes, it will. So, William, thank you very much, and for all those positives.
Okay, well, listen, Thursday, I think, touch wood now, things might be reasonably quiet.
Yep.
So I thought that we could go with what we talked about last week. I'll come back on Thursday when there's a couple of sort of topics I think I can talk a bit more about.
Okay.
So again, it's about sharing with the community what we're doing in terms of government and strategy
Yep.
to make sure we all stay safe. So that would be, I think, a good time to do that.
Lovely, William.
Thank you,
Okay,
Google.
I will be speaking to you again shortly, I'm sure.
Okay, and stay safe, everybody.
And you. Thanks very much, William Tate, our president.
Bye.
Alderneys Key FM.